All right, we're coming up on 8 p.m. So I'd like to welcome you guys here, who are all that are here live, and those that are watching this on the replay. We're going to attack the same app we did last week, but this time we're going to do it in UIKit instead. So just to kind of get an idea of what the app looks like, you can see on my right hand side the app is displaying kind of what we're going to do today, which is, again, is the same app that we did last week, but just in UIKit. We're going to start everything by setting up collection views, and then we'll gradually move into doing using compositional layout to make this layout work. The demo you're seeing right now was done in UIKit, so it's not the SwiftUI version. So yeah, we're gonna get into it and see how it goes. So let's start going. Welcome, Alandis. All right. So as you can see here right now, I'll just kind of walk through what you will see in the starter project. And as always, the starter project is sitting in your, the link to it is in the description. You have the starter and the completed. So if you want to just follow along with the completed, you can. But you can do, yeah, that's good. Anyways, you can do whatever you feels most important, like however you want to do it. If you want to follow along with the completed, or if you want to follow along with me. But we have a view controller here that that we will be using today. It already has the collection view set up, and I also have the data source, the snapshot, and the sections variables already created. And I have this self-configuring cell, which every cell that we use is going to subclass, just so we can pass some data through for some of the things that we need to do today. It'll be dummy data, but it'll be data. And then what else? We have over here, we have like I said, each of our cells, but none of the cells are set up. So you won't see anything displaying there. There's only one cell that I did not actually, that we're not going to do live, is the weather info. And it's just way too complicated and will take a lot of time for me to try to explain how I did it. So you have the files, you can jump in and see what I did, but it works, it resizes. I ended up using stack views, but it's pretty much, yeah, a lot. I'll kind of go over that when we get to that later, so that we don't have to really cover. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a compositional, a collection view layout that we can use. And that'll be the first thing that we'll do. And I'm trying to think if that's the smartest way. Actually, I'll just create my initialize functions, and then I'll come back to that one. So we have a function that I'll call initialize, and then we're gonna have another function for what's going on, Francisco. We have another function called setup collection view, and then we'll have a few others we will create, but for now this is good. And inside of the setup collection views, we're going to write a cells array, and this is where we're going to store all of our arrays for this particular, all of the nibs that we're going to use for this collection view. Now we're going to do a nib. And the first one we're going to work on is the today forecast. So we'll go ahead and add that self. And then we're going to do collection view dot register cells. And we're going to pass in the cells we just created. And I didn't put that inside the function, so that won't work. And then, okay, so now we have to, we need to create our collection view layout. So let's do that next. So here we're going to create a lazy var. And we're going to say collection view layout. And this is going to be UI collection view layout. All right. And so inside of here, we're going to create the layout. And so we're going to say let layout equals UI collection view compositional layout. And we're going to put that to week, self. And then we're going to say section, index, and environment. There. And this is going to be NS collection layout. NS collection layout section, and it's going to be an optional in return. From here, we're going to do a guard, and this is going to equal to self else, and we'll return a nil. This is just boilerplate code that we're doing now, so nothing really anything that is data source dot snapshot, and then section kind equals snapshot dot section identifiers, and we're going to do section index dot kind. All right, and then we'll just add the switch, and we'll say section kind. And here is where we're going to make sure that we create the section. So I already did item, and item is where the data is coming from. So we have a section, and then we have another data, which is the object that the model object we're going to use. So item inside of section, I did initialize a couple of things. I created an enum called app that will allow us to basically use a type to pass into the section so that we know which one to create. And so that's what we'll go by. So we have hourly, header, table, tomorrow, and 10-day. So let's go back. I don't think we're going to use all of them. I pretty much refactored that down. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say case, and we're going to do the header, and we're going to return for now nil, and then we're going to say default, and we're going to return nil. So for right now, we're not going to return anything. It's going to complain, and I'll fix that in just a second. And then outside of here, we have to return this layout. But we need to return something. So inside of the app, we have a layout section. I'm going to do it this way. Nope. Here. And this is where we're going to pretty much write the code that we're going to do for each section. So the first thing that we want to do here is we're going to create a couple of functions that we're going to use. And this first one we're going to do in the protocol for this is we're going to create a function called full. And we'll use this in a couple of different places. So here we'll just pass in the height that we need, and then we can reuse this same function. So now it's complaining that we don't have our function, so we can go ahead and instantiate this one. And inside of here is where we're going to write our code. So let's see. So the first one that we're going to do is the top portion of the weather app. And so because that's only one item and it's going to take the full width of the screen, we're going to use full for this. So we're going to do, first thing we need to do is create an item size. So we're going to say item size equals NS collection layout size with the width and dimension. And we're going to say fractional width is 1. And we're going to do fractional height is 1. All right. And next we have to create an item. So we're going to say let item equals NS collection layout item with a layout size, and we're going to pass in the size. Next, we have to, we can do some content inset here. So we'll say item.content insets is equal to NS directional edge insets, and we'll use this. And we're just going to set all of these to 0. All right. Now we're going to create a group size, which is the next thing we need to create. Group size equals NS layout size, and then width and dimension here is fractional width, which is 1 or 100%. And then the height is, this is where we're going to pass in this value. So we're going to say absolute, and then we're just going to pass in height. So that means each thing that we use, we just need to make sure we pass in a height. And then finally, we need to create a group. So we're going to say let group equals NS collection layout group. And group is controls direction or behavior, I should say. And so we should say horizontal layout and then group size. And then for the sub items, we're just going to throw item inside of there. And we can also have content inset here for our group. And we'll say NS directional edge. And we'll do 0. Oops. We'll do 0 for the top. We'll do 10 for leading. We'll do 0 for the bottom. And we'll do 10 for trailing. And that's all we need to do there. Let section equals NS layout section again, and we're going to pass in a group, and we're going to pass in the group. And then finally, we'll just create a section.content inset, and that equals NS direction edge inset, and we'll set it to 0. Leading is 20, bottom is 0, and trailing is 0. And then finally, we just return the section. So right now we have a few different views we can use for this. So let's start seeing how this works. So right now this is complaining. So let's fix this by saying layout section factory dot full. And then what we want to do is pass in the width of this. So we're going to say 300. I'm sorry, the height of it. So we're going to say 300 is the height of this section. And snapshot is not referenced. Why? It should be. It's right there. Not sure why that's erroring, but let me just build and see if it clears it. Oh, I know why. So header is there, and I always forget the colons when it comes to switch statements. And then let section kind, let equals snap. Oh, my bad. So this is snapshot, and that's why it's complaining. Okay. So our layout section here is good. And I want to add one more little thing. This is something I didn't realize you could do. So we can also add spacing in between each of the sections instead of having to do bottom padding on each one. And I find that it's helpful for this because if you want to rearrange your sections, then your bottom padding may have to be adjusted. So I find this may make it a little easier if you're trying to make it consistent throughout. So here we're going to do UI collection view compositional layout configuration. That's a big word there. Compositional layout configuration. And we're going to do config.intersection spacing, and we're going to set it to 30. And then we're going to say layout.configuration equals config. And so that'll pass that in. So that's good there. We're going to initialize this setup collection view, and we're going to also do collection view dot composition. Our collection view layout is equal to compositional collection view layout up here. Okay. So that gets that stuff done. We did our registration. Let's create some card data for this. So we're going to say func create data, and then we're going to say sections equals bracket, and then we're going to do section and kind, and this is going to be the first one we're going to do is header. So we'll say header, and then we'll say items, and then all we have to do is just pass in the amount of what we need. So here we just need one item. So we just have to create one thing. And create data is done. So we go back under here and say create data. Okay, now we have to add our snapshot stuff. So again, this is boilerplate. So we're going to do ns diffable data source snapshot, and then we're going to pass in the object. So we're doing section, and then our object is actually item. So you always will have section, and then the item can change based on the type of data that you have. So it could be app, it could be data, it could be media, anything you're looking to do. But that's the two things you pass through. Next thing we're going to do is another snapshot, and we're going to append the sections, and we'll pass in sections, and we're going to do a sections.for each. And here we're going to say snapshot.append items and $0.0 to section, and then $0 gets passed through. And I'll move that up so you can see. And then data source.apply snapshot animated differences false. Okay, so now we have our data done. Earlier I showed that every cell that we have is going to subclass a self-configuring cell, and that's so that we can pass data through. We're going to use a function that will allow us to configure, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in. So here it's just doing a configuration of the cell with the collection view, and it's passing in the item through to each one of the sections that get created. So it's basically just really simple. It's doing a guard, and then again, it's just we're able to configure the cell once it's used. Now, in the code you have, I gave you background as a gradient, but I'm using, in this particular case, I'm using a gradient on the storyboard. So if you want to know how to use a gradient in regards to code, it's in the completed project, but I'm not going to do it today. You can use either one. I find that it's a little more consistent if I pull in the design version. It's a little harder to match exactly where the gradient ends or when it transitions. So, but I'm pretty close. I think I matched it pretty well, but I'm going to use the image today. So if you're wondering how to do it, you can pull from there and use it if you want to use that. Okay, so we've got one more thing that we really need to do before we can really run anything and see anything. Well, two more things. We still have to set up our cell, but we need to set up our data source. So let's create that function, and then we can move to the cells and the lovely auto layout. So we're going to do configure data source here, and then I am going to save you the trouble of this and just take what I have, and I'll just go over what I have. I'm going to delete a lot of this stuff and just explain what's going on. So again, this is boilerplate. We did the same stuff above here in the collection view layout. So we have a guard, we have a snapshot, and we have a section kind. We have the same kind of thing here: guard, snapshot, section kind. So all that's the same. And then we have our switch, and this is what's controlling the cell that we see. So if we give it a header, it's going to take a header. And so our sections right now, our array, our data's taking a section, it's looking for header, and then it's saying create one item. So now that that's there, that's all that we're doing here, and we're passing it in, and you just have to make sure that you register, which we did. And so now let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to go to today forecast, and to make things before I start, I'm going to just make sure everything's working. I'm just going to throw a nib in, a UI view in, and give it a color and just make sure that everything is good to go. So we're going to pin everything all the way around, and we're going to say add constraints, and then go to here, and let's change this to like a dark gray. It doesn't stand out very well here, but it will in the app. Okay, so we're going to come back. I'm going to build because there is an error, and let that go goodbye. Okay, so the error is gone. Let's see what happens. So fingers crossed that this works. Build and run. And there we go. Let's see what happens with it. So I already know that it didn't work because I actually didn't finish putting everything in. So we have create data, but I didn't add the rest of it. So in here, I need to do configure data source, which won't work if we don't do the data source. And now let's run it again. And the background's there, and the nib is not loading. Let's see. I'm going to put that over to the side in case it's just still running. And then I'm going to look at why that's not working. What am I missing? So snapshot sections, data source, configure. It's doing the header, weather info, today, header item. Okay, so I'm doing full. Let's just put a breakpoint in there and see what happens. And it's not running this at all, so that must mean it may not be hooked up. Let's see. Let's go to main and see if this is IB outletted. It is, but I'm going to just delete it. And view controller, collection view, good. Run it again. All right, view controller. We have that. We have this. Okay. Yeah, initialize. That would be nice. So that's missing. And there we go. So our cell is updated. See, it's always the little things that you miss and not the big thing. So, okay, so our today cell works. So now let's actually design something instead of using a gray box. And I have to use the side scroller. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to just, oops, did that wrong. I'm going to just delete that. I'm going to come to here. I'm going to bring out a label, drag it out, and we'll put out one label. And then what's the best way to do this? I'm going to drag, command, copy, paste, and put in a second label. And then it's a lot easier if I just copy and paste these labels instead of having to redesign them. I will not bring in the auto layout, but I'll at least bring in the labels in. We have fonts embedded, so they're all in, and I will just bring those in and save us the time for trying to figure things out in that portion. And then we have two more labels we want to bring in. Oops. And all right, let's move this out a bit. And then we have an image. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just clear out all the constraints. We shouldn't have any in here. Let me see. Yeah, it's still complaining about constraints. So let's go clear constraints in all of the views. So everything is cleared out. Nothing has been brought over. And let's get this working. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and bring it down a bit. So the first thing that probably the easiest thing to do is the label here at the top. I'm going to expand it all the way across, and I'm going to set it to top, and I'm going to put, let's say 8. I'm going to do the left and say 0, and I'm going to do right and say 0, and the height we'll leave at 21. So I'm going to hit add constraint, and that moves. We'll do the next one. We're going to just expand it all the way across. And what I like to do is I like to make sure that the label underneath it is lined up. I hate the fact that I can't zoom in with the zoom in key. So right now, it should show me the distance between these, which it's not. So I'm going to just leave it pinned to the left. I'm going to expand it all the way across. And then what I'll do is right now it's set to 12. So I'm going to just make it 0. So it'll be pinned directly underneath the first label. Pin it to the left 0, pin it to the right 0, and set the height to 18. So that will satisfy all of the needs it needs, and I will hit OK. So we have the 2 of those done. This one, we want it to be pretty much, it needs to be directly in the middle, but it also needs to be pinned to the top, or like basically underneath this one. So what we can do is we can say pin to the top 0, which it's already there. We don't need to pin left and right, and I'll explain why in a second, but we do want to do a width and a height. So we're going to say width and height, add constraint. And so right now it's complaining because we still haven't satisfied enough of the constraints to make this work. So what we need to say, the last constraint I need is to say, I want it to be in the middle of the cell no matter what. So we'll go here and we'll say horizontally in the container and hit add. So now I know no matter what, if I resize this cell, let's resize it, it'll always move to the center. If I make it, if I come in, it'll be in the middle. So that I know works. That's what's great, kind of like using the nib is gives me visual indication that I did this right and I know it'll work. Okay, so now we have these two text views, right? And typically what people would probably do is either throw it in a stack view and let stack view handle it, or try to do these labels together, or just like we did up here. Now, for me, I find that what's easier is we take the views, command click on them both, right? We go up to editor. We say we can go up to editor, embed in, or we can come down here and we can say embed in view without inset. And now what it does is it puts it into its own container. And then we just need to change this to clear. And what we want to do is we want to pin it in the bottom left corner. So we want it to pin here and down at the bottom. So we're going to do left as 0. We're going to do bottom as 0. And then we don't necessarily care about width, but for now we will, let me think if I should keep the width on or not. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to do that. So I'll leave the two of them in the container. I'm going to take these two. I'm going to embed those into an inset and then change the background to clear. And since these two are kind of working together, instead of working with 4 elements, we'll work with 2. So we're going to take this and we're going to move it to this right side, and it's going to have a little bit of a padding. And then I'm going to move it up so it aligns with literally the bottom line of this font. So we'll just kind of eye it, and that's good enough. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll highlight both of them and I'll embed again, embed view without inset, and take out the clear. And now it's in its container. So then what I'll do from here is I'm going to pin this to the left and to the right. So boom. And now I'm going to set this to be bottom, left, right, and height. And now that's done. So now this is pinned, but if I resize it, you notice that the text disappeared because it's not moving. We haven't put any constraints on the containers. So I'm going to do that now. And sometimes it's easier when you embed, it's easier to grab it from here and select it and then tap on the outside. And now I can move it around. So here I want to say left, bottom, we'll say the width and we'll say the height, and we'll add the constraint. And then this one is going to be, we'll say 50 to the right, and we'll say 4 to the bottom, and we'll give it a width and a height, and we'll say add constraint. So now it's going to stay 50, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. It's probably better to bring that down. So let's change that to like 10, because most likely it'll make it wrong. So we can come in a pretty good distance before it starts to run into this. So a smaller device, we may have to tweak some of the fonts, but for now, I think this works really well. So I'm going to stop, and then I'm just going to run it. And now the first part of our header is done. So what makes this work, I think, is just understanding auto layout a bit. I'm going to do this in the 13, and let's see what happens with this. Feels like 80 degrees. It may change, it may not. but I'm going to let it run and we'll see what happens there. And it works still. So that's good. So we have this working pretty well inside of this, and it scrolls, which is what we want. So step one done. The next thing that goes under here is a table. And this is the weather info thing. And I really did this one where there's a bunch of things going on, but just so that you can understand what I did is there's a view, and then I put a grid image in the background. So there's an image of a grid in the background, and it goes full width. And then I took a stack view and I embedded a lot of stuff. So I have 2 stack views embedded into there and 2 stack views vetted in there. So I have this humidity 80 degrees is a stack view, this humidity 80 degrees is a stack view, and then repeating here. And then going across, there's a stack view and a stack view. So I can use, if you select it, you'll see here that the spacing is 20. If I change it, you'll notice that it's pushing it out. So, and it's pushing these 2, right? I'm going to put that back to 20. If I select the other one, it's going to be the bottom one. So the bottom row. All right. So that's there. And then this entire stack view has a spacing, and that will do vertically. So if I increase that, you'll see that the 2 start to separate. And again, I'll put that back to 6. And really the thing that goes with stack views is you don't have to put as many constraints in. So what I did was I put a width on the 80%, and I want the rest of it to fill up the space. So that way, humidity, if the text gets really long, it works. 80% right now, it probably won't fit like 100 degrees. So that probably would be the only adjustment you'd have to make. But the whole idea is you make your size here, and then the other label will take up whatever available space is left. And it's kind of what everything is doing. So let's get that into the layout section. So we're going to go into utilities, layout section, and we're going to create actually this one is going to be full, so we don't really have to do anything new. We're going to go back over here. We're going to say case dot what is that? That's a table, I think is what I named it, or info table. And we're going to say return, and when layout section factory dot full. And then this particular width is, I don't remember, so I'm looking. This width is 78. I'm sorry, height is 78. I don't know why I keep saying width. So we have a height here of 78. Now, in the design, we actually have 2 tables. We have a table here, then there's something else that comes here, and then we have another table down below. Well, the first table is all white, and the second table has more color. So what we can do is we can actually customize the color that's being passed through. For now, we'll just do full with a 78, and then we'll customize it later once we get more stuff in. We have to register the cell or the nib, so that needs to happen. And this one is weather info dot self. And we also need to create the section. So we need to make sure that it gets added. So here we're going to say table. And again, we're just doing 1. So we're just going to add 1. And we just need to do a section down here. So that's all that's missing. Let's do Sorry. Let's do a table that is going to be here. Okay, so we have a table we're going to configure. So we have this configure cell now here that we're using, and it's just basically passing it in. I kept both so that you could see the differences, but here configure's passing in the weather info, it's passing the item through, and then if we go into weather info cell, you'll see this configure. So what I'll do is I'll do a dump and I'll do item. So what will happen is this particular item will print out into the console once it gets used. So let's go and run it. And boom. So here we can see the item, and you can see each one of the different things that we can pass through for this item. So we have an ID that's being generated, we have an index, we have a tagline, title, subtitle, title color, subtitle color, and divider color. So we will come back to this later and use it. But you can see it works. This table works on the mini. And if I move up to the Pro Max and I run it there, it'll also work there. So not sure why it's taking that one, but I'll close this one out. Okay, so now you can see here it works as well. So this is good. And what's great about setting up compositional layout in a way that it works this way is you really have flexibility. And like anytime you need to add a new section, especially if it's like this where it's just a width or a height. And I mean, I literally just added this line. I added the nib. I added it in the array, and then I just configured the data source for it to work, and it's up and running. So it's pretty nice once you get it going to get this kind of making it really easy for you to update and add and switch and move things around. So that takes care of the table. Now what we have underneath here is this scroller that goes from left to right, and it gives a bi-hourly weather update. So if it could be 10 p.m., noon, then like 2 p.m., 4 p.m., et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what we want to do next. And so the bi-hourly cell is what we want to configure. So this cell is there's not a whole lot in it. It's pretty basic as far as the items go, but I'm going to just bring in the nib stuff so that you don't have to watch me do designing of nibs and all that wonderful stuff. So we'll bring that in. Oops, here. I will get rid of the constraints and then do them all live. So copy, paste. Okay. So let's go here and let's clear all of the constraints out. Now, I'm going to do the same trick I did before. So I'm going to move this over to the edge, and then I'm going to drag these two down. All right. And move it over a bit. And I'm going to do my embed view without inset and embed this in here and just change this to clear. So again, I like to make these containers. It makes it easier to control. I could have done each one, but it just makes things, to me, it simplifies it. The less items you have, then the easier it is to kind of move around. So that's that. Now, one thing I need to do is I want to add a view behind this so that we have a background on it. So I'm going to do a UI view, and I'm going to just hit return, and it adds it for me. And then I'm going to just resize this there. So the view is here. I want it to be in a different spot. So rainy is fine, but the views, I want to move it down so I can use the panel over here will allow me to see it. And so rainy is still there. Let me move that back. Okay, so now we're there. And this particular frame is, oh, I see what I did there. And okay, now I got it. All right, so I'm gonna just take this and drag it. This is actually not the background. I'm gonna move this over. It's the divider, and I can't get to it, so I'm gonna do width is 1, and the height is going to be 48. So we'll just do 48 here. And so you can see it now, but right there. All right, so that's there. And I'm gonna move this down so now that matches. Okay, so that's good, that's good. And now I'm gonna embed this entire thing again, so that way we can just create the background from that. So view and set, oops, undo. And I just need to select all of this stuff and then embed there. Okay, so we'll keep the color on because we want the background. And now rainy, I'm gonna just do pin to the left, pin to the right, width and height. Okay, so right now it's complaining because I didn't put any constraints on the main container. So let's do that now. So I'm going to do pin to the top. Actually, I'm probably going to change what I did. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this as 0. I'm going to do this as a height and add constraint. And then I'm going to do vertically centered. Then that way, it doesn't really matter. I pinned it originally to the top, but I can do it this way. Okay, so now this constraint is fine. And so we really don't need to touch the 22 degrees and the 10 o'clock because that is inside of a container. Actually, I need to do the main one. So I have to do top 10, right 4, width and height is good for now. And what's it complaining about? So it says it needs a width, a Y, or a height. I thought I gave one to it. Oh, I see. There's one more thing. We have another little view here that's missing. So this one needs top, right, bottom, and I'm going to do 0. And then it's going to get a height and add constraint. And then this one is complaining. So it's saying that I need to give it an X position. There. No. Let's see. We'll say add the missing constraint. Oh, it was added to the left. So that's you go. Sure. I can zoom in. It's really hard because this one is really small, but there you go. So here, let me get rid of, there's too many constraints going on. So this one has constraint to the left, to the right, and to this side. And no problem. And the padding here could be adjusted to like 5. And then this one, we can get rid of the width. I'm going to get rid of that by deleting. Oops. Go back, do that again. Oh, okay. This one is complaining. Move that, move here, and do width as 1. And then I'm going to change this color because right now it's blending in, and I'm going to say that this is base light gray. Okay, and then I need to fix the main container, which is not this one, but this one. So I'm going to pin this to the right and say 4. No. For some reason, it does not want to expand. So let's do it that way. And then I want to update the constraints. delete and pass this through to here and change the width to, change the width to 1 there, and then pin, so pin this to 0. Actually, that's already pinned, so that's there. It needs the right side, so we'll just say 2, add constraint, and that fixes that one. Okay, so now this is done. So the by hourly config is set up. I'm going to then just have to go back and change and add everything that I need. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add the by hourly function into the layout section. So in here we have full. We already talked about that one. I'm going to add the next one for by hourly. Here, the item size is set to 82 because that's the height of the size of the item. We have a group size of 150 and 70. So it's going to be individual items scrolling from left to right. So we're using this horizontal group. And then we're going to, the scrolling behavior is going to be continuous, which is the natural way, the natural version of scrolling. So not paging and not grouping. And then here we're saying we want to have leading of 30. So right now it's going to do everything we need there. So we just have to, obviously we have to add our nib is the first thing. And that is by hourly cell. And then we have, this one's a little bit more. We have 12. So we should, I'm going to copy that down and use it. So we have, and this one's also going to be a little different. So I'm passing in some indexes, and the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm actually going to do a little trick. So for now, just you'll see what I'm talking about when we load it. And then finally, we just need to add our configuration for the by hourly, which is going to be there. So we can save and then run it. And it's erroring, of course. So let's see. What did I do? Section definition. Invalid definition. Okay, so I must have missed something. By hourly. Oh, I might have. Nope, this is good. And I added that in. Oh, here. By. It's not table. It should be by hourly. Dot. And then here we're going to do by hourly. Sorry. All right. And run it. Okay. So there's a couple of things that are wrong. Right now, the dividers are messed up, but everything is working. And the other thing that the design has is a rounded corner here at the beginning. So what I did was I added an index to these to say if this is 0, we can make that rounded corner and we can fake it in the cell. So I'm gonna swap out the cell that I'm doing, the nib that I'm doing here, and I'm gonna replace it with the one that I did earlier. And so here, and we're just going to place it and replace. And again, everything is still the same. We have this nib we have here, but I have a constraint that I'm doing on the edge, and it's hard to see. Let me get by hourly cell. Right now, I'm missing the constraint. So we need to add a constraint onto the leading edge of this particular cell. and then we can make this work the way that I'm thinking. So let's go back to by hourly, and then here we're going to have 2, well, really 1. So let's just add that. That's the leading constraint, and that's already added. And then we don't need background. I originally had a background. I'm going to get rid of it. All right, so let's stop and then let's run it again. It should still be the same as it was before, but this isn't messed up anymore. Okay, and now what I will do is I'm gonna, inside of the configure, I'm gonna check and see if the index is equal to 0. If it is, I'm going to tell it to give it a rounded corner. And I'm using this masked corner and saying layer min X, min Y corner, and this min X and max Y corner. Oh, I do need the background. Let's go back. Oops. Background is in, and doubting myself sometimes. Okay, so that's there, and that's here. Okay, so we have, so here we're checking if the item index equals 0. We're going to clip the bounds and set it to true. We're going to set the corner radius to 40, and we're going to do this mask here. Now, you might be wondering, why am I doing the else? Well, I'm going to get rid of the else, and then you're going to see what it does. So let's replace and run it. And you'll see here we have the rounded corner. That's exactly what we were trying to do. But watch what happens when I scroll. As I scroll up, we have another rounded corner, and then it's the way that Apple does the dequeuing, and it's reusing the cell. So we have to reset. We have to make sure that everybody gets the right thing. So I'm going to undo my else. I'm going to then stop and then play it again. And now you'll see that it doesn't actually have it. So we have everything working there. So now we have the scroller coming across and everything is good. So we have a couple more sections to do. We already did table. So we're going to just go ahead and add table into the array. And then that will be done. We'll be done with that. So let's do. So actually we have another section. We have 2 more sections. We have the tomorrow section. So that's going to be just a graphic and a couple of other items in there. Here is what it looks like. So right here is the tomorrow section. It's pretty much the same identical kind of setup that we did before with the full. So I'm going to just skip this design and we'll just work on the 10-day forecast. So I will set it up, and then you can kind of look at the project and see how those go. But I just did auto layout for the 2 items here, the icon in the middle, and then the 2 on the labels on the right. So I'm not going to bore you with redoing all of those. So let's do tomorrow cell, show and finder. I'm gonna copy this one and then close, and then do the tomorrow cell here, show and finder, and just replace. Boom. Really? Okay, there we go. So that's in. And now I just need to add the information again. And so this is kind of just the same repeating sort of thing. First thing is we'll add the array. So tomorrow, 1 item. It's going to get the full view just like the other one did. And that height is going to be 148. So here we're going to say tomorrow. and it's going to be full 148. So that's good. We need the nib to be in. So tomorrow cell needs to have that. So we have that in. And what else? We have tomorrow cell down at the bottom, and we're done. So that's in, and now we can save. I'll stop and run it again. And now we have the tomorrow cell here. So we're good. And then we can just add the table cell right underneath it. And this is where the color is going to change. So we'll add some colors. So in this one, we're going to pass in table, and we're going to pass in item. And here we're going to set the color to base light blue is going to be the title. The subtitle is going to be a dark blue, and the divider is going to be a light blue. The top one is going to default to the black, which is what the design is anyways. So we don't have to add any colors to that one. So I'm going to run it again. And now you can see it's still black. Why is it black? Oh, I know why. Let me go back. I just need to do the nibs. So I'm going to copy here, and just the outlets aren't set up, so that's the reason why it's not working. Weather info configuration, and this should now be connected. I shouldn't have to do any outlets, but let me just verify. Nope. Okay, so the background view is set up. The grid, weather info cell, label image grid there, and then first subtitle. First subtitle is the 80%. First title is there. Fourth title is that one. Fourth title is that one. Subtitle is this one. Second sub there. Second title there. Third title there, and there. And run it. And now we can see the colors are changing, and these are set to white, and these are set to the different color there. And we are done. So the last section that I want to cover is has like a supplementary view. And so I want to kind of go over that before we end. So we have one more section called this is the 10-day forecast. So we have again, I'm just going to take this stuff and copy them over and just kind of explain what's going on so you guys don't have to watch it. So daily forecast, show in Finder, and we'll just replace both of these here. So go here, come back. So we're not going to do anything there in the configuration, but we have here, we have our basic layout, and there's nothing special going on. And again, you can open up the project and see. I'm not doing anything spectacular in there. What is different though is this is going to get a section header. Now you could technically, which is one way of doing it, is you could just create a section, call it header, like we're doing here, and you could just add another section, or you can create a section in a section. So what that looks like is this. So we have our first one here, and let's kind of see how this works. By hourly. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So we're going to do 10-day. So we're going to do static func 10-day parenthesis dash ns collection view layout section. Now here, everything is the same. We have an item size. We're going to say that it's 50 in the height. We're going to say that the group is 50, and we're going to display it vertically. So up and down. And then the difference in this is we can return section, and this would work just fine. So let's actually do that. So we can return section, hit save, and then we're gonna I'll show you how we can add a header to this. So we're gonna come back, table and section. So here we're gonna say this is 10-day. We're passing in a title right now. We're not using it. We're gonna add items. So we're gonna say we want to display 10 items here. And now we just have to obviously set up the nibs for that. And we can do that here. So we have our nib, our daily cell is good. And we have our data source that we have to add as well at the top. So we can say 10-day here. Okay, so everything is good. Let's run it. And everything is not good because it wants to complain. Daily cell. Did I add the nib to the? No, I did not. I just need to register. Sorry. All right, try this again. Build and run. Okay, so we're good. So here you can see we have our 10 items, but we can add a header here and pass in the data that we want here. So again, we could technically take a section, add another one, paste it right above, boom, done, and you don't have to worry about it. But you can add a supplementary view to the section. And so what you would do is I'm going to go into layout section, and we're going to come into here, and we're going to add a layout section with a header. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to create the header. So we're going to say section header. And we're going to do NS collection layout boundary layout. I'm going to just go here, boundary supplementary item, which is a layout size. And we're going to pass in header size, which I'm not using. And then we're going to do element kind. And we're going to say section header view dot kind. And then alignment dot top. All right, and then I'm going to create a header size, basically just like we have above. So here we're going to say that our header is 60 in height, and now we're passing that header size over to here. And now we can do a section header.content inset, and we can say this is really not even using it. It's just zeros, so 0, 0, 0, 0. Don't even really need it. And then finally, what you need to do to add it is just say section dot boundary supplementary items, and then we just pass in a header. So again, this is just the nib, right? We have the difference between this and the other ones is this is a UI collection reusable view, whereas our other cells are subclassing UI collection view cells. So just keep that in mind when you go to create the file, that it's going to be a UI collection reusable view. So when I stop and I play, it's going to complain because I didn't register, which I already knew as soon as I hit the play button. And so we'll go back, and we just have to come up to here. And these are for regular cell views, but we have to register it like the normal way. So let me just do, it's a lot to write, so I'm just going to copy and paste it because here, so we're going to say collection view register. We're going to pass in the nib. We're going to say that the kind is a it's basically an ID. So we're saying that it's a section view header. It's not really giving anything, doing anything special. And then this reuse identifier, again, we're just using the name so that way we don't have to worry about writing things wrong. And so I run it again, and let's see, supplementary view is not working, failure. Okay, so I remember. So right now we have everything done, but we have to actually add a function to make this work. So if I go here, and when we use it this way, we have to implement this one more thing. So we're going to create the supplementary view provider. We're going to create a snapshot just like we've done every time. Here, we did it here, we did it above. We're going to then create a section, and then we're going to then look for the section kind. And in here, we just pass in the data that we need. And this is where we pass in the data that we wanted to display. So here it's saying section view section.title, and section.title is what will pass in our title that's being displayed right here. 10-day forecast. Forgetting to register nibs, table, and collection view cells is a humbling experience. Happens all the time with me. I know. And I haven't done SwiftUI. I haven't done UI kit in forever, so I keep forgetting to do it. It's such a stupid thing. So, and I'm not humbled. I don't care if I messed it up. Everyone messes up. I've been doing this for so long. You still mess up. Okay, so here we have section and configure, and that's basically all we need to make this work. And I promise you, when I hit play this time, it will work. I probably shouldn't have said that because Xcode might smack me. See, I said it, and now Xcode smacked me. And it smacked me because I didn't add the function in the call of the init method. So here I want to say set up section header. Not going to say it this time. Okay, and it worked. Okay, so now if I scroll, the text isn't showing up, but it is working. So we just need to go into the section header, and we don't have an outlet. So let's create the outlet. And that's the only thing missing. So let's do here, and I'm going to grab it from this one, and boom. And now I'm just going to do that top right and add constraint. This is wrong. And why is that showing 1 and then okay, oops. So again, when you want to get it, so you can see here that this label is not letting me grab it. If I select it here and I try to move it up, it's not going to be in focus. You have to tap on the side of this view, and then you can move it up, and then I can set it. Oh, come on. All right, I'm just going to clear out the constraints, and then top left, right, set that to 10, set the height, set the constraint. Why are you being a pain in my butt? So let's see, why is that? That's so weird that it's saying 1. Let me do 2. I don't understand why it's saying 1, but that's not 1. Okay, here, I'm gonna delete this section header. Show and finder. That's gone. And just take this one. And that's good. Okay. I'm not gonna fight you today. All right, so we have the LBL title here. I'm gonna go over here, and it's not added, so we're just going to create @IB outlet week var LBL title, and then this will be UI label, and that. And the outlet is already there. So let's run it again and see what happens. And so this finally worked. So when I scroll, I get the title that's coming through. So again, this is a little bit more of a, it's kind of like what my boss says, is the juice worth the squeeze? Do you add it here? Do you do it as a section? I say it's more efficient. If you do it this way, it may take a slightly bit longer if you're not rushing, but at least, what it will allow you to do is it won't be another section in the array. So it's just preference, whatever you choose. But I'm here to just show you different things. You can do what you want, but that's the whole idea of what we want to do. And you can see here, there's a little bit of a gap here. So that probably could be changed within layout section, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is about an hour, so this is right around where I wanted to be. If you have any questions, please ask. I know that I kind of sped through some of the things. I wanted to kind of just make sure I got around an hour and didn't go like 3 hours. So if you have questions, please ask. But otherwise, I really appreciate you showing up tonight. For those that are here, I know Alandis is here. Francisco, thanks. Michael, thanks. And I'm not sure if anyone else is around, but I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like time-wise, it probably takes a little bit longer, obviously, to do UIKit. I feel more comfortable doing stuff in SwiftUI. And it's a lot simpler to do things like this. I had to do a hack sort of thing to make this rounded corner work, but it works. So there's not much I can really complain about there. But you know, it's a good experience for me to get back into UIKit. So I'll be doing this regularly. I won't be doing a live stream next week since it's going to be Thanksgiving week, but the week after Thanksgiving, I'll have another app. I'll start with SwiftUI, and then the following week will be UIKit. And this will be the basic pattern that I will do from now on. So if you see me post something, it'll always be SwiftUI, UIKit, SwiftUI, UIKit. That way you can see both versions and you can kind of compare. So if you're coming from UIKit and you're looking to see what would be comparable, I think this is really helpful for you to visualize that in that way. Thank you, Christian. I appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you don't have any now and you want to mess around with the code, drop it in the comment and I will definitely make sure I answer any questions there as well. But I really do appreciate it. I am launching a new tutorial. I have part 2 coming out tomorrow. And every week I will be posting other parts, and hopefully it'll be more and more tutorials. I'm gonna start working on the next one now. So yeah, I really do appreciate you guys subscribing. I appreciate you being here. And thanks for the support.